Okay, here is our day 3 story. While I read, there are several sensory words in the book. We have learned about sensory words. They can be words that describe how something looks. They can describe a smell, a taste. They can describe a sound or how something feels. So I'm going to make a little deal with my friends who are watching if you're in my class. While I read, if you want to write down 3 sensory words that you hear from today's story and have mom or dad send me your 3 words in a dojo message, I will give you a participation dojo point. That way we're still earning a couple of points even though we're not at school. Okay, today's story is going to be called Trust Me, Jack's Beanstalk Stinks. People think it's easy being a giant. You get to be rotten, grumpy, and loud. You're big and tough. You have gobs of treasure. And nobody tells you to behave. Giant life is no picnic, though. It's hard to find shoes that fit. My knees hurt from the weight of my huge body. And I'm always hungry. Always. But the worst thing? Humans. Humans are part of a balanced giant breakfast. But when you're not eating them, they're a real pain. Sometimes they laugh at me behind my back. They call me stinky and fatso. They ring my doorbell and run away. Ha ha ha. Very funny. The boy named Jack was extra bold. He came up through the clouds one day while I was out gathering a small breakfast. He tricked my wife into feeding him, then hid inside my house. I mean, come on. Would he hide inside a human's house? That's a crime. Well, he didn't trick me. I could smell him. He smelled delicious. Maybe you still smell that kitty casserole from supper last night, says the wife. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I said in giant. This means something like, go on home now. I promise I won't eat you. What do you think about that? You think that's really what it means? But he stayed in his hiding place, the little rat. And if I zoom out, we can see that he's hiding in the cupboard. Ugh. The giant has drool. Usually when you're hungry and you smell something yummy, it might make you feel like you have like extra spit in your mouth. So he's kind of drooling a little bit. After breakfast, I took a nap, just like I always do. Eating makes me tired. And when I did, Jack stole a bag of gold. Humans, nutritious and sneaky. Sometime later, Jack came back again. And again, he tricked my wife into letting him inside. When I came home from picking up a light breakfast, I could smell him. I knew who it was. So this is his wife. She's reading a book called 101 Delicious Kid Dishes. She says, maybe you still smell that little dude stew from supper last night. There's Jack. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I yelled. This can also mean, give me back my gold and we'll call it even. I definitely won't eat you. But he still didn't come out. Just like before, I ate my meal and tried to forget about Jack. I relaxed with my goose, the one that lays golden eggs. Soon, I took a little snooze. Of course, that pesky boy couldn't let a guy rest. You know what he did? He stole my goose. The lousy, no good, miserable thief. The last time Jack came around, I called out, fee, fi, fo, fum. This can even mean, darn, I'm really angry now. My wife and I searched, but I couldn't find him. I kept looking, but soon I got hungry. Big surprise. After breakfast, I enjoyed some lovely music. My golden harp sang to me, and the sound was even sweeter than boy berry pie. I rested my eyes a bit. I'd finally forgotten about Jack. You can see he's sneaking right out the window. The next thing you know, my harp is calling, Master! Master! Jack was running off with it, and I thundered after. I almost caught up to them too, but they disappeared into the clouds. And there it was, a big beanstalk. Jack was climbing down it. Well, I'm a smart guy. I know a dangerous thing when I see it. I didn't want to go down there. No way. But then my harp called out again. So down I went, down, down. That stalk was wobbly, but I kept going. The beanstalk shook once, twice, then toppled over. Jack had chopped it with an axe. I fell and broke my crown. That's an old-fashioned way of saying I whacked my head real good. Even if you're a big, tough giant, that hurts. So there's Jack hiding with the axe. You can see the big bump on his head. My wife said I should forget about Jack, but sometimes I still look through the hole in the clouds. Jack and his mother got rich selling golden eggs. They fattened up pretty nicely. And Jack got married. My golden harp sang at the wedding. It was a lovely party. I'll tell you one thing. Someday when my crown feels better, I'm going to go down there and get my stuff back. Maybe I'll grab lunch while I'm there too. And that's the end. So, like I normally do, I have questions for you. We can play a little game. You can give yourself a point for each one you get correct. Okay, my first question is, what kind of story is this? We talk about this all the time. So the two main categories are going to be fiction or nonfiction. What do you think? If you said fiction, you would be correct. This was a fake story. It could not happen. It was a fun spin on a folktale. My second question is, who is the narrator? So when I was reading the story, who was telling the story? Who was speaking? While you're thinking about it, I'm going to get ready to prove the answer. Okay. The narrator of this story was the giant. On the very first page, he talks and says, people think it's easy being a giant. You get to be rotten, grumpy, and loud. You're big and tough. You have gobs of treasure. And nobody tells you to behave. So he is speaking to us, the audience, the reader. Okay? My next question is, what does the giant and his wife eat in the story? So take a minute and think about what were some of the things they ate. And again, while you're thinking about it, I am going to get my page ready because it's always good to prove the answer if you can. Okay? One of the things they talked about eating was kitty casserole. So that would be some kind of dish made up with kitties, which are kids. On another page, she had also mentioned that they had little dude stew. So stew is kind of like a thick soup. And if it was little dude, my guess would be that it was kind of like little boy soup. Okay? So it sounds kind of like they like to eat little children. My next question is, what did Jack steal in the story? So think about it. Okay. The first thing he stole, there he is sneaking away. He stole the bag of gold. Okay. There was a couple other things he took. He also stole the goose. Remember the goose laid the golden eggs? And then lastly, he came and stole the singing harp. So that was 3 things that Jack stole. Okay, my next question is, when does the giant go to sleep in the story? There's definitely a pattern with that one. Okay? The giant likes to go to sleep after he eats his meals. He fills his tummy and then he kind of passes out. So there's another page up ahead where he had had his breakfast and he zonks out. Okay? My next question says, humans called the giant blank. In the beginning of the story, the giant mentions that humans like to call him what? Okay? In the beginning of the story, if I go back, it says, sometimes they laugh at me behind my back. They call me Stinky and Fatso. So Stinky and Fatso were the 2 names humans like to call the giant. At the end of the story, the giant falls on his head because blank. So take a second, shout out the answer if you've got it. Mrs. Seifert is just getting the page ready. Okay, at the end of the story, the giant falls on his head because as he was climbing down, Jack took an axe and chopped down the beanstalk. So he came crashing down. Okay, if you got everything right, let me know. I'd love to know how you're doing. And then, like always, I put together a writing for you. So for writing today, you're going to think, how would this story be different if it were told by blank? And I gave you a choice. So in the original story, Jack and the Beanstalk, the narrator was not part of the story. It was an outside voice. But how could this story be different if it was the giant's wife doing the talking? So you have to remember, she was the one that was letting Jack into the house. Or how could it be different if Jack was telling the story? Would he say that he was stealing, or would he have a different reason? So you don't have to write a lot, but just, tell me what you think. Another fun activity, if you are looking for more to do, you could draw 2 big circles that are interconnecting, what we call a Venn diagram. If you're not sure what a Venn diagram looks like, you can Google it. You can YouTube the original story, Jack's Beanstalk, and you would do a compare and contrast. So you would tell me in the first circle some things that were only in Jack and the Beanstalk. On the other circle, you would tell me things that were only in today's story. Trust me, Jack's Beanstalk stinks. And then in the middle where the 2 circles overlap, you could tell me some things that were the same. And again, none of this has to be turned in. It's totally voluntary. Do whatever you wish to do. Hope you enjoyed today's story. I'm going to go ahead and start getting tomorrow's ready.